see where I can sit this where it won't roll off this morning. Perhaps. Good morning. Thank you, Grace. Oh, my girl, Cheyenne. A great hug. She's always expecting me to do that. I said, come on. How are you, my beloveds? Thank you for being here this morning, and thank you for those on Facebook who are joining us. It's been a great week, and I hope you guys had a great week as well. Yeah. Do you expect a great week? Yeah. You expect a great week? A great week will happen. And today's talk is called Heaven on Earth. And this is a part of a series that I'm going to start talking about. And it's a series based on the book by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's called The Four Agreements. And the reason why this is so important is because we all are living with agreements, whether we know about it or not, and they're different than beliefs. Agreements are things that we agree to, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. For example, why is the color of the sky called blue? It's because we have agreed over the years that blue is the name of that color. We just all agree to it. And when we go to Mexico, they say blue is azul. And we've all agreed that our name for blue is blue, and their name is azul. That's just an agreement. And there are all kinds of agreements that we have. But today I want to talk about the four agreements, because what we agree to, consciously or unconsciously, begins to build our lives, and what we're capable of doing, and what we can transform to becoming. And these four agreements are the ones that we need to know about consciously, because they are transformative and they are powerful. And so we're going to be talking about those today, the four agreements. And we're going to start with be impeccable with your word. So there are four of them. And again, we want to talk about agreements because we've been talking about in December, we let go of some beliefs that we had and that we weren't working for us. We went ahead and declared some things that are. In January, we talked about all of our declarations and what we wanted to come into this year. And so for the four agreements, this is a foundational concept about how we're going to live out our lives and how the things that we're declaring are going to come. And the first agreement that we're going to talk about today, be impeccable with your word, which is why I love that song that you sing. You know, don't let your words bring me down. Our words are powerful to us and to other people. And so it's the first one, be impeccable with your word, is the same as integrity when you're talking about our core beliefs. Integrity has to be the first one of your core beliefs. Because if you don't have integrity, the rest of them will fall, right? Because integrity lets us know what we're going to do, that we're going to commit to it. Integrity is the basic beginning of the core beliefs. And so be impeccable with your word is the beginning of the four agreements that we have to understand. And it's the most difficult to do and the most difficult to honor. But we're going to do it anyway. So the first agreement of the four agreements, as I said, is to be impeccable with your word. And the second one that we'll talk about in the next talk, there'll be 4 talks, is don't take anything personally. Don't take anything personally. We have a tendency to take things on, and it really isn't about you, although life is about you. So it's kind of a paradox. We'll talk about that. The third agreement is that we don't make assumptions. We do a lot of that. I had a woman tell me one time, it was so interesting, I loved it. She said, we were just kind of sitting around a group of women, and she said that if she was served a cup of coffee, and the person didn't put it with a saucer, or a cup with a saucer, that was rude. That said to her that the woman disrespected her. And I said, I had never heard of such a thing. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Let me ask you this. What if this woman has never actually had coffee with a saucer and a cup? That she's always used mugs. And so she's just serving you with the things that she loves, and what would happen then? Would she still be rude, or was she still being disrespectful to you? And she goes, oh my God, I never thought about it. That's just an assumption, right? That's just an agreement. That's something her mother raised her with. Maybe they had great china. Who knows where it came from? I've been making an assumption to try to figure out where it came from. But I'm saying we have them, a lot. So we're going to talk about that. And the final one is always do your best. Always do your best. So why are we building the habit of 4 agreements? Because this is about examining our lives. As we were talking about this morning, you don't necessarily know why you're behaving the way you're behaving. Sometimes you do, many times you don't. I'm not even sure that she knew why someone not giving her a saucer was disrespectful, until I talked to her about it and she had to examine it. So there's a number of things that we show up and do. There's a belief that I have that good people go to work. You go to work every single day. I mean, a lot of us were raised with that work ethic. And the people who don't go to work are somehow, less, right? I'm going to work every day. Everybody in the house needs to be going to work as far as I'm concerned. But that's just something that I was raised with, an agreement that I have. And so we're going to talk about examining which ones work for us and which ones don't. And the reason we're going to do that is because we need to let life be easy. Because that's what Spirit has said to us. Now, I'm going to be here with you, and life is simple and easy. So we're going to be talking about the first agreement, be in with your word, and let life be easy. This is a picture of Gandhi, although it's a weird looking picture. Man, that's kind of crazy. But anyway. So when he talks about, when Don Miguel Ruiz talks about being impeccable with your word, he's talking about, I'm thinking there's 2 pieces to it. His part is, I'm going to talk about part 1 and part 2. He's saying show up as who you are, as the true person that you are, because we create our lives with words, which I agree with. The second part, though, which is what I'm adding to it, is that you have to become a person you can believe in and that you can trust. And that's why you want to be impeccable with your word, too. So the first part I'm going to talk about is showing up as you. Just whatever you looks like. Just show up all the time as you. And here's why. So I was at a meeting this week. I went to go, it was called a live dementia show, or demonstration, which I had no idea what that was. What is a live dementia demonstration? You have people with dementia walk around, what's happening? But that's not what it was. And it was really great. And they put on all these things, a headphone and glasses, so you would simulate dementia things in you. And then you had to walk around and try to do some things. It was quite eye-opening. And so I'm in a room with a lot of caregivers and people that work for the city and people that work for the Alzheimer's Association, all these caring people. And so as we're going through this room that they're doing the demonstration in, I'm sitting at the table having breakfast, and so some of us are in the room, some of us at the table. So I started having this conversation with this woman. She's sitting at his chair, and so we're just kind of talking about it, and her father had dementia, we're just going on. So a guy walks by, he's working there, he's part of the group that's come to learn some things, and he's handing us his brochures, and so he hands her one, and she says, oh, you're the person that just took over my job. And she said, yeah. He didn't just continue to go on, though, and say, hey, nice to meet you. He just kept talking with her. Like I wasn't sitting there. Like we weren't in the middle of a conversation. It bothered me. And I was kind of waiting for him to move on, and he didn't, because we were in the middle of a conversation. He never did, and never included me in the conversation. So I thought, oh, okay. So I just turned back and just started doing what I was doing. When he finished that conversation, I said, I need to talk to you for a moment, please. And because this is what I need to do. This is being true to me. And I need to share with him how I felt. How what he did made me feel invisible. It made me feel like what I was doing, what I was a part of, wasn't important to him. Not even enough to say, excuse me, or pull me into the conversation, or even acknowledge that I was there. And I said to him, I said, listen, you're clearly a good guy. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. And so this is not about me being angry with you. I want you to know what just happened, because I'm sure you're completely unaware of what just happened. I have to show up as me. And who I am is someone who cares and acknowledges my own feelings. This is what this means. It's about having courage to show up and do what you know is right, because if you don't, who will? This is how things change. You don't just sit there and not say something when you see something or feel something that isn't right. You have the right to say something. Right? Right?
Yes.
Can we agree with that? You have the right to say something. You have a right to share in a kind way. This is not about getting ugly. This is not about arguing with people. This is about showing up as who you are and letting people know this is not okay. It's not okay. And so this is about being impeccable with your word. I'm not arguing. And we had another conversation before about the difference between agreeing with someone. I was saying, listen, don't argue with people. I had this talk where I talked about agreeing with people. Instead of doing this, instead of bumping heads, walk with them. Walk with them. Because people are going to believe what they're going to believe anyway. But the point of that conversation, and I think a lot of people misunderstood what I meant, if you don't agree with the beliefs that someone has or something that someone is saying, say they kick a dog. You don't believe that's good. So you're not agreeing to kick the dog. That's not what you're saying. What I'm saying is don't argue with them. You don't go up to them and say, kicking a dog is wrong. Because that's what they do. What you do is you don't kick the dog. You don't go up and I'm not anti-war. I'm pro-peace. Does that make sense? This is what it means to agree. So we don't argue with people. We agree with ourselves and the things that we are. So we show up doing what we know is correct. To be impeccable with your word means to have clear intention. What is it you intend to do? When I spoke up to this gentleman, before I said anything, I sat there and thought, what is it that you're feeling? What is it that you think happened? What's his part in it, and what's your part in it? And if you want to speak a truth, your truth, is it true? Has three things there. Is it kind? Is it necessary to say? I felt it was necessary to say because my feelings were hurt. And I needed to make him aware of what his part in that. I don't believe he wanted to do that. I don't think he showed up wanting to do that. So there you go. Okay? So it's about being clear with our intention, taking responsibility without blame or guilt. I don't need to feel guilty. I'm not blaming him. He doesn't need to feel guilty. I tried to talk, listen, I know you're a good guy. This isn't about you doing something bad. That's not what this is about. So it's not about guilt or blame. It's about being impeccable. The law of attraction is at work when we're impeccable with our word. Right? Because we talked about this. Birds of a feather. So as we are being impeccable with our word and showing up as who we are, we're drawing to us that very same group that's like us, our tribe. So the law of attraction is also in place when we are impeccable with our word. The Bible tells us the word becomes manifest. Our word is so powerful. It is in two places in the Bible that are very powerful chapters. Number one, it's in the very first chapter of the Bible, Genesis 1, the very first verse. Genesis 1, where it says, God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw the light and said, it was good. Agreement. We all agree it's good to have light. And he separated the light from the darkness, and God called the light day and the darkness night. So again, from the very beginning, we're speaking our word. God spoke the word. It manifested, became flesh, and then he named it. There's agreement. Okay? In John 1:1, the very first book of John, the Gospel of John, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And who are we? We are children of God. We are one with God. Meaning what? That our word is equally as powerful. Our word are equally as powerful. So, if the power of words is in the first book of the Bible, and the most important book of the Bible, it's telling us that our words are powerful, that our words are creative, and that our words manifest. It's important that we understand that. We in New Thought use affirmations to affirm what we want in our lives, we use words, positive words, affirmative words. And we talked about that this morning. Sometimes, not everybody, how many of you in here have used affirmations? Okay. And how many of you have some difficulty with it? Right. Exactly. And why is that? Why is it that we have difficulty? Because maybe you can't believe what you're saying. If you're not necessarily feeling beautiful, but you're saying, I am beautiful, now you've already got a fight within yourself. So what can you say? We affirm what we can say. What is your truth? I look pretty good. I am pretty good looking. I can say that and believe it. All right? Hey, I am a child of God. I know that's true. In all my glory. So when we use our words, we have to say what we can believe. I am open to something. Okay? So we're talking about right now, we're talking about, and I can see the look on your faces, like we're talking about the 4 agreements and being impeccable with my word. You're like, what exactly is she talking about? Well, we can say, I am open to understanding. I am open to this process. I am willing, all right, to see what this has for me. Those are what we can affirm in our lives. That's how good our story is. Our words, that's how powerful our words are. We can affirm and bring into our lives that we want. I have a woman I just met, and I think she's going to become a girlfriend. And she's very, she's creative. We're all very creative. But she's a larger woman, and she's made these dolls. I think they're called big, black, beautiful dolls. I think that's what they're called. She's a black woman. And she made them some years ago. And she brought to this conference that we were at, she brought pictures of them. And I just like, oh my God, they're gorgeous. And she went on to say, how there's actually a Facebook page with these Zealot fans that love her dolls. She's not making them. She's not. They were in the Ross Perot Museum. There are a lot of people have loved these dolls, but she can't see it. Okay? She can't see it. So we can affirm, and we can talk about it, and we can use our words, but they only work when you agree. Understand? When you affirm something, they only work because you agree with it. If you don't agree, we have to say something we can agree with. I can tell her all day long how great those dolls are, but if she doesn't agree, then she won't move forward with it. So our words are very, very strong, and our words can either help or hurt. So what are we arguing with? What are we saying yes and no to? What are you disagreeing with? What are you rejecting and saying no, even though your friends are trying to tell you that yes, you are really good at this. This is something you can do. It's okay, because our words become flesh. So what can you affirm? What can you declare? We begin to think about those kinds of things and watch what our words are. Our words manifest beauty and tragedy, right? Do you mind if I share your baseball story this morning? He was telling us a story about a voice in his head. He was at a game, Jake's Stadium, at a game, and you can correct me any pieces that I'm wrong about it, and he wanted to catch a ball. He wanted to get a fly ball. And he said, listen, the ball has got to come right here. There's like a couple of empty seats here, so I don't have to fight anybody, so this is where I want the ball to come. And lo and behold, the ball came there, coming right at him. And he's reaching down to pick up the ball, and the voice in his head says, you'll never get it. He's got the ball in his hand, and the voice has said, you'll never get it. He goes, the heck I won't. He's already got it. So there are voices that we agree with and voices we don't. He didn't agree with that voice. No, I got it. I got this. And who knows where that voice came from in his past. It doesn't matter. But my point is this, is that they can manifest love, heaven, or hell. Our words and our agreements are important. So what are you agreeing with and what are you saying? The word came to him, he didn't agree, and he moved forward, okay, in his life. So There have been so many times in my life that people have tried to share things with me that I did or did not agree with, that were or were not helpful to me. Someone asked me this morning, have you always been this cheery? Do you wake up like cheery? And I said, yes, I do. To the point that I have been talked about by my friends. My God, do you wake up like this? Is this possible? Are you on drugs? What is it? Seriously, I've gotten this all the time. I've never taken their displeasure on because it's who I am and I love being happy. I've never taken that on. But I have taken on the fact that, you sing, you can't sing. You're too white and you ain't no Aretha and you ain't no, right? And I took that on and agreed with them until I stopped agreeing. And the moment I stopped agreeing, I owned my own voice, right? My point is this: you don't know what people have in their hearts. So we want to be very careful and impeccable with our word. Show up as you, and you can't harm people. Show up as your true self, as the God self, as love, as caring, as all the characteristics of God, and you won't have to worry about your words. Your words are then impeccable because they are God words. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see something that you think you should say, and you know it's not a God thing, don't say it. Don't do it. You know why? Now, you're not going to hurt them so much as you're going to hurt yourself. It actually comes back to you. It really does. This is about we're at karma, what goes around comes around, or no, dog will carry a bone, take a bone. All those things we've heard our whole lives. But you say something, it's going to come back to you. So it's really in your best interest to be impeccable with your word. It just is. So this is just a graph. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I want to do this one. Jane Down. Talks about, as a man thinketh. Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys and 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, but it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. So all of our thoughts coming into words creates our life. Our thoughts into words is our life. You want to know about what you believe, look around your life. Because what you believe is what's in your life. And if you want to change what's in your life, you have to change what you think and say. And be impeccable with your word. Move forward with intention. So, I want to talk about impeccable, speaking beauty, speaking truth, speaking grace, speaking God. Wounds, when we wound people, and there's a lot of people walking around with wounds, all of us have wounds, because someone has said something unintentional, possibly careless. When he was talking about his story this morning, he said the person who told him that, well, there's a different story, but something was told to him. He said, I know the person didn't mean to hurt me. No. People just say what they say. One of the reasons why I didn't do music when I was young, do you know what my father told me? Seriously, he said, I was going to join a band. I was 16 years old. I was going to travel and join a band. He said, if you join the band, they are going to turn you into a prostitute. He told me that to my face. And then being this like you ain't had nothing to do. You couldn't control that. You couldn't just say no. Right? Just automatically. These are the words. And he thought he was protecting me. Those were his agreements. That's what he thought about music and musicians. And these are all, drug addicts and what, who knows? But those are his agreements. So that's what he told me. And that was a wound that I carried for quite some time, which I don't now. But we have to be very careful. So, impeccable. What is it actually? Oops, I went back. Did I go back? Yeah, impeccable. In meaning not, and pekare meaning to sin. So, impeccable means without sin. And without sin meaning no self-rejection. Not rejecting who you are. That's what impeccable actually means. Yes, I see the look on your face. It means being true to you. Being your God self. Not rejecting who you are. So when you show up and you're speaking to people, you're always coming from this natural God space. So you can't hurt people. That's what impeccable, you sit with it for a while, we'll come to you. It's okay. But that's what being impeccable means with your word. From Don Miguel Ruiz, and I agree with him. So and it's not judging yourself. We do a lot of judging, a lot of blaming, a lot of guilt. It doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't get us anywhere. We have to let it go. If we're judging ourselves, we're judging someone else. If we're guilty, we're putting guilt out there. If we're blaming, we're blaming. So it starts here. You're blaming yourself, you're blaming somebody else. That's what's happening. That's the way it is. Okay? So my part of being impeccable, part 2, is about building self-trust. Because here's how it works. I had a boss one time. I was in insurance, and I was becoming a producer, is what they call a salesman. And my boss would say, hey, can you get this done? Oh, yeah, I got it. I got this done. Don't worry about it. Can you do it? Yep, got it. Got it done. Don't worry about it. And one day he said to me, you speak very positively, like it's already done. And I said, okay. And the reason I do is because if I say it, my actions follow my words. I know that. That's who I am. If I say it, I make myself do it because I want to trust me. So I don't let anything come out of my mouth unless I'm willing to actually do it. So if I say I'm going to be there in 10 minutes, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. It starts with the little things. You begin to trust yourself. If I say I'm going to go and visit a friend, I'm going to go visit a friend. I'm not going to say things and then not do it, because then I become someone I don't trust. So here's what happens. See that further down the road. When you go to set an intention or a goal, but you haven't been true to yourself in anything else, you haven't done what you said you're going to do, then your words just fall on deaf ears. Your heart doesn't believe you. Do you see what I'm saying? Your heart doesn't believe you. You have to begin to be a person you can trust, that your heart believes. When you say anything, do it. Or just don't. If you can't do it, and you don't think you can, just say, you know what? Let me get back to you. It is okay to tell people, let me get back to you. It's okay to tell yourself, I'm going to think about that. I'm not going to commit to that just yet. It's okay to do that. Because the moment you set it out there, go ahead and move forward with it. That is being impeccable with your word, coming to take care of yourself. Time and attention, yes or no, be clear about that. If you make a yes and a no a no. It's okay to say yes, it's okay to say no. Move forward. That's what we do. So believe yourself when you set goals and intentions. Speak your word. Showing up as you. Speaking the truth to create your life. That is what we're here to do. That is what being impeccable with your word is. That's what the 4 agreements are. We're talking about the law of attraction. If you are a person of God and you show up that way, your tribe is going to show up right there with you. These are all people in my tribe, right here. You are people of integrity, of heart, of love. And I'm so glad to be here with you. We get what we give. We get what we give. That is the law. So speak the truth comes back. Show up as God, God comes back. Get what we give. We build trust in ourselves. We say what we mean. I speak my word, and I know it is so. Because I am, and God is. So when I say I am speaking a truth. And I am saying and setting a declaration. So that's what we get to do. I am, I will. Speak it and know who you are and what you are putting into your lives and what we are saying and who we are being and who we are becoming. We have control over all of that. So build trust in yourself. Say what you mean. I'm going to constantly talk about this. I know you guys are going, she keeps talking about the same thing. Yes, in a different disguise. It's the same thing. Right? Because it is about I am, claiming and knowing the power of that. Who you are. You are a child of God. You have God's DNA. And we talked about last time, we are empowered to reign over our lives. And to reign over something means to be in power for a time. And as long as your heart is beating, you are in power and control of your life. You are still reigning over your life. God said so already. So yes, I'm going to always talk about who you are. I am the power of God in you. That you have greatness in you. Some of it's showing up, but not all of it, because we're complex. We have a lot of greatness in us. Don't shortchange yourself or God. Yeah. So we learn by repetition. So who can finish these jingles? Oh, I will show her.
Not my reader.
Where's the
Me.
finger licking?
Good.
Tricks are
For rabbits.
tricks are for rabbits. Tricks are for kids. Correct. Takes a licking and
Keep on kicking.
I can't believe I ate the whole thing. All right? You're in good hands with all steady. Okay? I'm going to repeat it. Because these things have been repeated since the 1960s. We can all say it. So until you can say it and know it, and I'm out of a job, I'm going to stand up here repeating these things every single Sunday. I love you. Thank you so much. Be impeccable with your word.